Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1406 of our daily content grind. So, it dawned on me that lately I have been mentioning a lot about how Armada names in Japanese end up being a little bit weird. And it does make me realize we haven't done a dig into Japanese and foreign Transformer names in a hot minute. And why haven't I done Armada yet? Because it's got one of the weirdest naming conventions, like simultaneously normal and weird at the same time. So we're going to go with this. We are going to go with the Armada ones, and we're going to specifically focus on the Japanese names, but the more amusing names from elsewhere in the world might creep in here and there. We got a lot to go through, so we are going to start with the big guy himself. Now, a lot of this is not a surprise, so some of the characters will not make this list because, frankly, the names are just what you would expect. You know, Megatron is Megatron, Starscream is Starscream, Optimus is Convoy. Now, if you go with his combinations in the series, then you're going to get Jet Convoy, Magna Convoy, Magna Jet Convoy, etc. And then you have his Mandarin name, which translates to pillar that supports the sky. And I still love that as a visual. It's such a grandiose name when you break it down like that. Let's go into some of the more well-known ones. So, yeah, the Japanese name for Hotshot is Hot Rod, because that is his primary inspiration, where everyone thinks that he was originally supposed to be Bumblebee, because there's one design sheet that showed that name drawn on it. According to Aaron Archer, that was never the intention. Hot Rod is the basis for the character, and that's reflected by the Japanese name. Now, if you go to the Hungarian name, it translates to badass. I have a lot of questions. I do not support that name for the character. The Polish name, Thunderboltus, I think is way cooler. That one sounds cool. In Romanian, it translates to wise guy. That suits. Russian translates to scorcher. Okay, I like that too. And then in Ukrainian, we have variations of hot shot or heat shot. Honestly, or hot head and heat shots, rather. Heat Shot, I think, is a cool enough name on its own. Like, I could go with just that. That one sound. I think that's a better name than Hot Shot, frankly. Okay, Red Alert is also fairly well known, his Japanese name being Ratchet. And now you start to see what Japan did with Micron Densetsu. So for as much as we like to harp on Hasbro for dragging nostalgia up and holding on to it with a chokehold, this toy line in particular had this weird thing of pulling up random G1 names to reassign to all these characters who were otherwise 100% brand new. So you had a lot of oddball names being attached to characters. We'll get to that in a minute. If you want a few alternates for Red Alert, then most of them are variations on Alert or Alarm. That's not terribly exciting. The Korean name translates to Patrol, which I don't normally associate an ambulance with patrolling, but then again, he's also not really an ambulance, is he? He's kind of a first responder vehicle. Let's get into weird now. We know Blurr, you know, and obviously why he is named Blurr. Well, in Japan, it was Silverbolt. So so we kind of based him off of his robot mode colors, and they based him off of his vehicle mode colors. So it's a weird thing to do. Also, very weird to pull an aerial bot name for a car. I know he has a flight mode, but that's still a car. So no. Most places called him Turbo as well, though the Chinese name translates to Daring Vanguard, which is kind of cool. And in Korea, it was Sunbolt. And I think I like those type names best, where there's an homage to the previous name in there, but it's still completely unique. Now, Sunbolt again sounds cool. I don't think that fits as well though. Like, nothing about his design in anything calls it, you know, gives me the idea of him being called Sun. That's just me. See, Jetfire's another easy one. He's Jetfire in Japan as well. Other names include his Mandarin name, which translates to Ignite. Fair enough. And his Ukrainian name, which is Lightning, doing away with the whole fire motif altogether. In Hungarian, it is Plain Fire. I think there's a very big distinction between Jetfire, because jet engines produce flame, and Plain Fire, which means we need to make a water landing very quickly. That is, I'm not making it to Reno, am I? Plain Fire. It's not a great name. It's not a great name for a hero. So, Smokescreen was always a weird name. That's such a blatant, just trademark dump on this character, because otherwise he makes no sense for that name. The Japanese name is Grap, a shortening of Grapple, another G1 name. Nothing else is really special. A lot of places kind of went with just abbreviations of Smokescreen or Grapple, but in Korea, they specifically named him Smokey. This is kind of like a nickname, you know, or like he's a bear telling you to prevent forest fires. Either way, kind of simple on that one, but just the idea of like nicknaming him Smokey, I thought was funny. Okay, how about Scavenger, whose name is already interesting, as he's an Autobot who looks like a Constructicon, named after a Constructicon. In Japanese, they took it further by calling him Devastar, or Devastor, depending on how you want to parse that translation. Either way, it's the name of Devastator in Japan. They just pulled up the most famous combiner's name and just applied it to this random guy who looks very Constructicon, but is still an Autobot for varying reasons. There's funny ones here too. So, in Korea, it was Hyena. That doesn't seem to fit too much. In Polish, it was Gravedigger, which that gets closer, but I would imagine a backhoe for that, not a bulldozer. In Russian, it was Garbage Man, completely missing the point of him not being that type of truck. Oh, but my favorite has to be in Hungarian, where his name literally translated to Corpse Eater. That's saying something. Great Autobot, that Corpse Eater. Yeah, absolutely. Just a great guy once you get to know him. How about Overload? Okay, so Overload is... Okay, this is obvious because it's pretty well known he was named Ultra Magnus in the Japanese version. Then the design does have allusions to G1 or Ultra Magnus, so that makes sense. I will accept that. Nothing really weird, though I do like the Ukraine name Overheat. Okay, that's a little I think that's kind of appropriate for a character who turns into a couple of gigantic cannons. Okay, that actually makes a little bit of sense. Nothing too unusual there, though. Oh, one of my favorite punching bags, Armada Sideswipe. This one is already dealing with name confusion because apparently in production, his name and his Minicon's name got swapped. This was going to be Nightbeat, which explains the color scheme a lot better. However, I guess someone along the way either flipped him by accident or decided that a motorcycle named Sideswipe probably didn't make sense, so switched they went. And Aaron Archer unsuccessfully lobbied to get that fixed before release, and it never happened. Yeah, I think I like the idea of calling him Nightbeat more, not only because it's the homage his color scheme's going for, but like the beat part, because he's got these big old smashy fists. Korea called him Smash for such reason. Russia called him Uppercut for such reasons, and that makes sense. In Japanese, it was Stepper. You know, that head that vaguely looks like Jazz? Yeah, they were going to lean into that. My favorite being the Hungarian version, which is Dense. His name is Dense. And I think that is the most appropriate name for him of all. we can move into Decepticons now. So we've already gotten the two big ones out of the way. There's nothing weird about their names, but we can go into Cyclonus, and you think he's already pulling a random G1 name, so why change it? Well, apparently Japan wanted to call him Sandstorm, so his name was Sandstorm. So we're pulling we're pulling an Autobot helicopter's name instead of coming. You know, they didn't call him like Vortex or anything. No, we're going to go for an Autobot. And it's a third season Autobot. You know, oddball. Sandstorm in Korea as well. I like in Russia, it translates to Cyclone, which is a little bit more on the nose for a helicopter. You know, that's what the Cyclonus name is going for. I like the Polish name of Cyclotron. It sounds like a device Cobra came up with to take over the world, but it sounds neat, and it goes along with their name for Demolishor, which was in Polish. There's hang on, I'm parsing this a little bit. You'll understand why I started explaining this. In Polish, it was Demolitron. So you had Demolitron and Cyclotron hanging out together. Okay, that makes sense. Keep in mind they're on the same team as Megatron, and I think a lot of names in that series in Polish kind of follow that naming convention. It's weird. It's a little bit weird. We'll get to another one here in a minute. For other ones in Japanese, it was Ironhide. Random G1 Autobot name. Okay, we'll go with that. Let's see, in Korea, it was just Hyde. I don't know if that just meant he had a thick head, like a thick skin on him, or if that is what you were specifically supposed to do when you saw this missile truck pull up. Either way, his name was Hyde. And then I think one of the funnier ones in Russia, Devastator. So depending on where you go, Devastator was the name of two different characters in this series. It's a cool name. I won't begrudge it. Like, you kind of understand why. Little confusing though. Tidal Wave's another one that's pretty well known. We know his Japanese name is Shockwave, you know, so that's not really throwing anybody off. In Hungarian, it was Wavegrave. Not only a rhyming name, but oh, that sounds cool. Oh, that sounds cool. I like that one. In Polish, it was Wavetron. See? They just liked calling them Trons. But later also called Wave Thrower. Some of these Polish names, there are two different versions, so I'm assuming a second translation thing happened to kind of give them more fleshed out and unique names across each other. I like what happened with the others. So in Korean, it was Shock. In Ukraine, it was Wave. In Russia, it was Tide. So we took all three segments of his US and Japanese names and just decided who gets what syllable. How about Thrust? So Thrust is still Thrust in Japanese. It's one of the few names that carries over from one coast to the other. His other names give me pause, though. In Korean, it's Sniper. You'll recall that he is not a sniper character, so it's not even really a gunner, really. He's got jet engines for hands. If anything, he's a flamethrower man. More confusing are his Russian name, which is Axe. I guess they're pulling like the shape of his wing or something there. More confusing is the Hungarian name, Axel. Something that planes are famous for having. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where some of these names come from. I assume the axle part is the axle that his gimmick is spinning on, but also that's really silly sounding. Whatever. This one's even weirder for me. Okay, so again, we had a weird naming convention because Aaron Archer did not think that Wheeljack was the name of a good guy. And that is because, like, carjacking means to steal the car. But a wheeljack is a tool to fix a car. So that's kind of what the character was doing in G1. So no, they called him Wheeljack here. In Japanese, it was Rampage, which, okay, that's a Decepticon name, but it's a Decepticon name of a Predacon. And you will note this does not look like a tiger in any way, shape, or form. So that's an odd one to go for. Other names include the Ukrainian version, Wheelman. So, okay, that sounds like a getaway driver. Sure, we'll go with that. In Hungarian, Steering Wheeljack. We've taken the name Wheeljack, we've made it even more confusing somehow. In Russian, it's just Racer. They just excluded themselves completely. We're just going to call him Racer. We're done. We're out of this debate. Thank you. And then my favorite, which was Korean, where his name is Freddy. It reminds me of like the Star TV translations, where Blaster is named Billy, and now here's Wheeljack. His name's Freddy. It's funny to me. It's funny to me. So I guess before we get into the finale here, let's talk about Sideways. Double face in Japanese, so they didn't, it's a brand new type of character, so they didn't have anyone that was a faction switcher in G1 to pull a name off of for this guy. And all the names kind of fit that, like, mysterious character and, like, two-sided nature vibe. In Russian, it was Hermit. In Polish, it was Dodger. No, he didn't play baseball. No, his name was just Dodger. In Hungarian, it was Swerver. And if you imagine Swerve, wrestling fans know what a swerve is. And no, not the Strickland type, the storyline type, where he just makes that quick little pivot in the story. The story itself swerves on you. That fits. That kind of fits. But but Swerver falls in the same vein as, like, of names like, why would you trust a guy named Swerver? What did you think he was going to do to you? Now, we're going to end off on a quick rapid fire round of minicons, starting with some of the major ones that do take explanation, and then we're just going to rapid fire on some of the ones that made me laugh. So, a lot of the minicon names are pretty dirt simple. Some of them are literally just like the Buzzsaw minicon. His name is just Wheel. Sometimes they're literally just named after the trait of their physical design, which I feel is a little sus. But we can talk about the Combiner team, the Street Action minicons, which starts with Grinder here, whose Japanese name is Bank. He combines, of course, with Highwire, whose Japanese name is Wheelie. We're back to pulling old G1 names. And of course, you would think, like, why are you naming the bicycle Wheelie when you have an orange character in this combination right there? Well, because this is the girl, so naturally they name this one RC. Doesn't it look like RC? Isn't it good to know that there's a mass release RC toy somewhere in the world outside of Bakon, and it's this minicon? Like, technically, the first RC sold at a normal store was this one. They all combine into what we call Perceptor, which is a shameless name dump on our parts, but the Japanese name, of course, is Bumble. We called him Bumble. So this is where we get Bumblebee's name into this mix. How does that sound? That Bank combines with Wheelie and RC to create Bumblebee. Oh, this makes me laugh. A couple other names for you here. So, in Korean, his name was Pigeon. Don't know why. And then in French, it was Perpetrator. And honestly, cooler name than Perceptor. Not gonna lie. We'll also talk a little bit about Sparkplug here, since he's kind of like a lead minicon. I didn't do Leader 1 because I think his name was just Barrel. But Japanese name is Prime. So they actually had a Prime in Japan for the first time. It was kind of cool. And then the retool later on for the repaint, like where he gets like souped up, Corona Prime. Hits a little different after 2020, doesn't it? But, you know, before then, that would have been a really cool Prime name, I'm just saying. His other names include Hungarian, being Spark, you know, because Transformers have a spark of their own. It's a shortening of Sparkplug. And then in Polish, it was Liderus. So all those Trons, well, we also got another like Optimus spinoff. Okay, let's go into some quick ones here to finish us off for the video. So Long Arm is another one of those that pulls from the Japanese, from the G1 stockpile of names, calling himself Hook, even though he looks nothing like it. So we got a lot of Constructicon homages going on in all these names. We have Rollbar. Rollbar is literally named Dirt. How would you like for someone to give you the name Dirt, and you were actually stuck with it? Man's name's Dirt. Oh, and he's not alone. Here's Iceberg, whose name is Junk. You have Dirt and Junk, which tells you what we think of you here in the in the overall like pecking order of the minicons. You are junk. You are dirt. So mean. These are mean names to give to some of these guys. So we have Firebolt here, who is named Draft. And then we have Downshift here, who's named Drift. So this is Drift. That's Draft. That's Draft. This is Drift. Don't confuse them. Also amusing to me that Japan used the name Drift long before IDW Drift was ever a thing. So, kind of like no real history there, just fun little tidbit. Let's see, Stormcloud here is named Knot, as in garlic knot, as in rope tie knot, K-N-O-T, knot, which I assume has to do with a sailor's knot and not any other knot that you shouldn't be referring to. I don't know. I'm not going to wager a guess where they came up with that. I don't. Is it not as in nautical miles? Like I don't. Is someone who is more affluent in sailing than me? Someone in the comment section tell me if K-N-O-T is the same spelling of knot as in like speed on the water as just like a rope tie knot, because I genuinely don't know. And then we're going to finish off with this unfortunate soul. So this is Knockout here in America. In Japanese, his name is Crack. How would you like to tell your friends this? How would you like someone to ask you who your favorite minicon is, and your response is, I love Crack? That is... Granted, in Japan, that's perfectly fine. Japan wouldn't have anything to do with this. That's perfectly fine. In the context of American language, where the word crack came from in the first place, it sounds there's sus connotations to it. There's sus connotations to it. But no, I'm gonna leave it off at that. There's so many weird. I don't know what was going on. Like you've got a combination of these like random G1 names. Some not even, like, aligning with the factions that they're going with. And then you have weird minicon names that are borderline derogatory. Like, I don't know what they were going for. It's just a really, really weird set of names. So I'll leave you to contemplate them all on your own time. For now, thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.